If you're a die-hard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. It seems like the perfect storm is brewing between the Cleveland Browns and the San Francisco 49ers, and wide receiver Jauan Jennings is right at the eye of it. Jennings, coming off a breakout 2024 campaign, is now in the middle of a contract standoff with San Francisco. He wants to be paid like the key piece he proved himself to be last season, or he wants a fresh start somewhere new. The 49ers, meanwhile, are facing financial pressure with several stars on the payroll and not a lot of wiggle room to work with. That's where the Browns come in. Cleveland is in dire need of reliable receiving talent, and Jennings could be the answer. It's a move that makes sense for both sides, especially considering that Jennings is on an expiring deal, and the 49ers may prefer to get value now rather than risk losing him for nothing in free agency later on. Cleveland's wide receiver room is frankly a question mark behind Jerry Jeudy. They brought in Deontay Johnson, sure, but let's not pretend he hasn't had his ups and downs. Johnson bounced between 3 teams last year alone, a red flag if there ever was one. The Browns didn't draft any receivers in 2025, which raised eyebrows at the time and is now coming back into focus as training camp nears. That means the team is essentially betting big on Jeudy staying healthy and playing up to his potential, which is far from a guarantee. Adding Jennings to that mix would suddenly give the Browns something they haven't had in years. A physically imposing, sure-handed red zone threat who can take pressure off everyone else. It's the kind of calculated risk that playoff caliber teams take when they smell opportunity, and Cleveland needs to act before someone else jumps the line. Let's talk numbers for a moment, because Jennings' stats in 2024 were no fluke. He hauled in 77 receptions for 975 yards and 6 touchdowns. Not just solid numbers, but standout production considering he wasn't even the top option in San Francisco's loaded offense. What makes him truly intriguing is his size. At 6'3", and 215 pounds, Jennings is a matchup nightmare for most defensive backs. He brings a physicality that not many receivers in today's game possess, which becomes even more valuable in the red zone and on third downs. That kind of presence is exactly what the Browns have lacked. He doesn't need to be a 100-catch guy to make a big impact. His ability to extend drives and finish in the end zone is something that could take Cleveland's offense to the next level, especially if they're breaking in a rookie quarterback this season. Speaking of that quarterback situation, let's be real. Whether it's Deshaun Watson trying to revive his career or a rookie stepping into the spotlight, Cleveland's passing game needs as many safety nets as it can get. Relying solely on Jeudy and Johnson isn't just risky. It's borderline negligent for a franchise trying to compete in an AFC that's loaded with elite offenses. The Browns need a steady, tough, and experienced receiver who can be a stabilizing force. Jennings fits that bill. He's not flashy, but he's dependable. He's not going to make headlines every week, but he'll move the chains, make the contested catches, and show up when it matters. That's the kind of presence that helps young quarterbacks grow. And with a price tag of just $7.5 million for 2025, Jennings might be one of the league's best bargains if Cleveland is smart enough to pounce now. Let's also not forget the bigger picture here. San Francisco is in a cap squeeze. They've got big money tied up in guys like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey. Paying Jennings top dollar on an extension just doesn't make a lot of sense for them long term. That opens the door for a trade, and the Browns could be the ideal partner. The asking price probably wouldn't be sky high. After all, Jennings only has one true breakout season under his belt, and while that was impressive, it doesn't yet put him in the elite receiver tier where first-round picks are demanded. A mid-round pick or two might be enough to get it done. For a team like Cleveland, which has had some whiffs in recent drafts, flipping a day 2 or 3 pick for a proven, plug-and-play starter is a no-brainer. This is the kind of move that could shape a playoff run. It's worth noting that the Browns front office has been aggressive in recent years. They've shown they're not afraid to make bold trades or take swings on players with high upside. Just look at how they went after Jeudy, or how they brought in Zadarius Smith to beef up the pass rush. The team believes its window is open now, and that means they can't afford to sit on their hands. Adding Jennings wouldn't just fill a need, It would send a message to the locker room that Cleveland is going all in. And sometimes that's as valuable as the player himself. Jennings is the kind of guy who elevates a team's competitive culture. He blocks hard, plays through contact, and brings a chip on his shoulder mentality that fits right in with his DNA Cleveland has tried to build. On the field, the fit is almost too good to ignore. Pairing Jennings with Jeudy gives you two vastly different styles that complement each other beautifully. Jeudy is the route technician, the guy who creates separation and moves the chains. Jennings is the bruiser, the guy who wins at the catch, point, and muscles his way to extra yards. That kind of diversity makes it harder for defenses to key in on one style, especially in crunch time. Plus, if Johnson does regain form, suddenly the Browns would have a trio that can go toe-to-toe with almost any unit in the league. And for a franchise that's often been defined by its lack of offensive weapons, that's a game changer. Cleveland can't rely on its defense alone forever, and Jennings could be a huge step toward building a more balanced, explosive attack. From the 49ers perspective, moving Jennings now might be the smart play. They're trying to manage an increasingly expensive roster and still find room to develop younger talent. Trading Jennings opens up snaps for guys further down the depth chart while also clearing a bit of cap space. More importantly, it avoids letting him walk for nothing in 2026. If they can get a quality draft pick or even a rotational player in return, that's good business. For San Francisco, this isn't about Jennings not being good enough. It's about roster management and financial flexibility. And for the Browns, it's about seizing a moment. Trades like this are how teams improve without blowing up their salary cap or overpaying in free agency. It's smart, it's strategic, and it fits the timeline of both organizations. There's also the leadership factor. Jennings may not be the most vocal player, but those around him respect his grind. He's a guy who worked his way up from the bottom of the depth chart and never stopped battling. That kind of work ethic is contagious, especially in a locker room with young guys still finding their way. Cleveland is building a culture of accountability, and Jennings would only reinforce that. He brings toughness, reliability, and playoff experience. All traits you can't teach. And let's not forget that he played a key role in the 49ers postseason run last year, coming up big in multiple clutch situations. That kind of mental toughness is invaluable, particularly for a Browns team that's trying to shed decades of underachievement and build something lasting. You want guys who've been there and know how to win. In the end, this is a classic win-win scenario that feels like it's just waiting to happen. The Browns need help at wide receiver, and Jauan Jennings is sitting there available for the right price. The 49ers have every reason to consider moving him, and Cleveland has every reason to be on the other end of that phone call. It's the kind of trade that might fly under the radar in July, but could end up shaping the entire AFC playoff picture by December. Sometimes in the NFL, timing is everything. Right now, the timing feels perfect. The Browns can't afford to hesitate, not when the opportunity is this clear. Pick up the phone, make the deal, bring Jennings to Cleveland. The impact could be bigger than anyone realizes, and it just might be the move that pushes the Browns from playoff hopeful to legitimate contender in 2025. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. There's a storm brewing in Cleveland, and it's not the kind that gets delayed by weather reports. It's something deeper, something behind the scenes, something that's rocking the very core of the Browns locker room. If the whispers are true and they're getting louder by the minute, there's real tension, maybe even a full-blown crisis within the team. And at the heart of it all, none other than Deshaun Watson. Yes, the highly paid, high-profile quarterback who was supposed to bring glory back to Cleveland is now allegedly the source of major division. According to emerging reports, and take this with the usual grain of salt, but don't ignore it, star cornerback DENZEL Ward has privately told teammates and staff that he refuses to take the field alongside Watson. And if that wasn't enough, sources say Ward didn't mince words. He claims Watson is hated in the Browns locker room. Hated. That's not something you hear every day. Now, to understand the weight of that statement, you have to realize who DENZEL Ward is. This isn't some backup or journeyman venting frustration. This is one of the team's leaders, a former first-round pick, Pro Bowler, and by many accounts, one of the locker room's most respected voices. So when he speaks, especially in such stark emotional terms. People listen. And it's not just that he said he doesn't want to play next to Watson anymore. According to insiders close to the team, Ward's tone was reportedly exhausted. Like this wasn't a snap decision. It sounds like it's been boiling under the surface for months, possibly since Watson first arrived. And let's be real, that arrival wasn't exactly met with universal praise. The baggage Watson brought from Houston wasn't forgotten by the fans or the players. The front office might have written a fat check, but the locker room didn't necessarily sign off on that deal emotionally. What's more interesting, or concerning depending on how you look at it, is the language used. Hated. That's a powerful word. It's not disliked or mistrusted, it's hated. And when you have a quarterback who is supposed to be the face of your franchise, the leader of your huddle, the man who rallies the team during war in the trenches, that word becomes dangerous. Quarterbacks are supposed to unite a team. If you've got players saying he's hated, that's not just locker room drama, that's structural rot. We've seen this story before with other teams where a quarterback loses the room and no matter how talented he is, it doesn't matter. The team crumbles, the execution on the field drops, chemistry disappears, players stop fighting for each other. And if Denzel Ward truly feels that strongly, and if others on the team agree, it could be a breaking point for the Browns' 2025 season before it even begins. Digging deeper, it makes you wonder, how long has this been bubbling? We all remember when Watson first joined the Browns in that controversial high-stakes trade. The NFL world was divided, fans were angry, and even within the organization, the mood was tense. There were rumors back then. Nothing concrete, but whispers of players being uncomfortable or disappointed with the move. It was brushed off as outside noise, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was the start of something bigger. Ward's reported declaration might just be the first real glimpse behind the curtain. And what if it's not just him? What if more players are feeling the same way but haven't spoken out yet? Sometimes it just takes one voice to crack open the dam. If Ward is vocal and he's respected, others might find the courage to say what they've been holding in. And that's how a locker room mutiny begins. Now let's consider how this affects the Browns front office. If you're Andrew Berry or Kevin Stefanski, this is your worst nightmare. You paid Deshaun Watson over $200 million fully guaranteed. You made him the centerpiece of your entire rebuild. You sold the vision of Watson as the long-term leader of your team, despite everything swirling around his off-field issues. And now, one of your defensive stars is reportedly drawing a line in the sand. That's not a chemistry issue. That's an organizational crisis. If this rift becomes public, or worse, if other players start echoing Ward's sentiments, the Browns may be forced into a position they never imagined, choosing between their quarterback and their locker room. That's a lose-lose situation in the NFL. Quarterbacks are rare, but locker room harmony is priceless. You can't win games when your team doesn't trust the man leading them. It's that simple. It also throws into question the Browns' ability to hold things together this offseason. Training camps are just around the corner, and instead of focusing on schemes and growth, this dark cloud now looms large. Can you imagine the press conferences? Coach, how do you address rumors that Denzel Ward refuses to play alongside your quarterback? That's not a distraction you want. And it's not one you can dodge either. Even if Stefanski and company try to brush it off, players talk, reporters dig, fans speculating. And once that narrative gets legs, it doesn't stop running. If Watson walks into that locker room and even feels the tension, it's going to affect him. And if he gets the sense that he's not supported, or worse, not wanted, it will show in his performance. We've seen Watson struggle already since joining. The Browns! Can you imagine how it looks now under this kind of emotional weight? It also casts a shadow over Watson's future with the team. Let's just say this continues to build and gets validated. Even if it's just Denzel Ward making these statements, if it's real, if it's heartfelt, it's enough. Star. Players forcing organizational changes isn't new in the NFL. We've seen quarterbacks pushed out. We've seen coaches fired because of locker room politics. And sometimes all it takes is a fracture between two stars to force movement. If Watson loses the locker room, no amount of guaranteed money can save him. The Browns could find themselves looking for trade partners trying to salvage the mess. They take a massive financial hit, no question. But if morale collapses and the team underperforms, that hit might be preferable to letting the locker room fester. And don't forget, Cleveland fans have high expectations this season. This isn't a rebuild year. It's supposed to be a contending one. And let's talk about the fans for a second. Cleveland has one of the most passionate, loyal, and long-suffering fan bases in the NFL. They've stood by this team through endless quarterback failures, coaching changes, and losing seasons. And when Watson was brought in, many fans were torn. Some were cautiously optimistic, others deeply upset. But now, if this locker room rift becomes public and visible, it could fracture that fragile truce between fans and front office. If they get the sense that the team is imploding from within, or worse, that management is siding with a player the team doesn't respect, the backlash could be fierce. Jerseys will be burned, booing will echo through First Energy Stadium, and the media firestorm will be relentless. Cleveland is not a city that tolerates dysfunction quietly. If this rumor becomes reality, the Browns' leadership might be dealing with a full-scale identity crisis. What's especially wild about all this is how quickly things can turn in the NFL. 1 minute, you're seen as a team on the rise, with elite talent on both sides of the ball and a quarterback ready to reclaim his spot among the league's best. The next minute, your team is drowning in drama, your stars are clashing, and your fan base is divided. This situation with Denzel Ward and Deshaun Watson, if true, could be that kind of tipping point. And again, we can't confirm anything officially yet, but when these types of reports start leaking, they rarely come from nowhere. There's usually some fire beneath the smoke. And in Cleveland, that fire might already be spreading fast. If the Browns don't get ahead of this, and I mean really get ahead of it, it's going to be a long, ugly season. A season of finger-pointing, broken trust, and wasted potential. So where does this go next? That's the million-dollar question. Do the Browns address it head-on? Does Denzel Ward speak publicly? Will Watson try to mend fences? Or will he dig in and pretend everything's fine? We don't know yet. But what we do know is that something feels off in Cleveland. Something's broken or about to break. And for a team that was finally supposed to turn the page, that's devastating. Because talent alone doesn't win championships. Cohesion does. And right now, if you believe the buzz, the Browns have anything but. Keep your eyes on this one. Because if the situation escalates, it could reshape the future of the franchise. Not next year, this year. And if that happens, don't say you didn't see it coming. Because the warning signs are already here. And if Denzel Ward's voice is the first, it definitely won't be the last. Stay tuned. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!